are talking about the horror Halloween anthology movie 1031. Although I guess if you're in the UK it should really be 3110, obviously signifying Halloween there. So this is a 5-story anthology movie, and I'll briefly talk about each of the films. So it's relatively low budget. The first one is called The Old Hag, and is one of the better ones if you ask me. It basically features these two guys as they are going to this old, dilapidated bed and breakfast in hope of creating a kind of viral ad for the owner. And while they're there, they keep saying these images of this old woman that seems to be maybe the creature in myth that is the kind of the old hag that is the sleep paralysis demon. What will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. That one I feel is the best one. I feel it works because our two main characters are likeable leads and played pretty well by the two actors who make for likeable kind of protagonists, and their setup is kind of quite good as well, because we know these guys are there because they want to make money. They're trying to get this paying gig of this making this sort of commercial, and that's kind of why they're there, and not wanting to kind of like run at the first sign of trouble, because they obviously want to get paid, and obviously first of all think it's just some random old woman. So that one was pretty good. The only kind of downside, I think the actual makeup of the hag wasn't particularly good. It really just looks like a kind of a rubber mask, but I thought the story and the characters were quite good, and it has quite a neat little twist I thought was good. The second story I also quite enjoyed, and it's fairly simple to be honest. It's this young couple decide to go to visit this kind of haunted cornfield, which is meant to have this kind of like this urban legend about the kind of the previous owners. And there, of course, is a scarecrow there that seems to come to life and obviously has evil intent. Very kind of straightforward film. It's quite spooky. The setup is quite good. I quite like the kind of the characters. Acting wasn't quite as good as the first one, and the actual scarecrow itself is quite good. And it has a kind of like somewhat of a classic creepy vibe to it. The set design, the kind of the location, I thought was quite good in that one. But we kind of see a kind of not so much the scarecrow, but maybe something that the scarecrow reveals, and again, quite poor rubber mask makeup, I have to say. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's fun, although very simplistic. The third one, unfortunately, it starts to take a downturn from the third one onwards. It has this I think it's meant to be set in the 80s, and it's this kind of roller disco, and this sort of young girl. She's having her last shift there, and she takes her kind of younger brother, who seems intent on wearing a werewolf costume, but there seems to be some kind of someone with evil intent who is on the roller disco and wants to kill everyone. And there's quite a good twist at the end of that one. I thought was quite good. It will kind of remind you of some classic kind of horror films. I won't tell you what, I was all going to spoil it. The problem with this one is it really drags. There's lots of scenes where you just want it to get on with it, because it really feels like it wants to show you lots and lots of scenes of these people just kind of going round and round on the roller disco without really any sort of story happening. And there's kind of characters that are introduced that are actually fairly important to the story. There's one character that doesn't have any lines, for example. So again, fairly poor character work on that one, and it really just isn't particularly interesting, although I quite like the end of that film. The next one was a little bizarre. It's essentially about this kind of household where there's one kid that really likes Halloween and one kid that likes Christmas, and there seems to be an intruder within the house essentially that may have something to do with one of these holidays. This one, the acting I thought was absolutely terrible. This was, to me, was one of the weakest ones, possibly the weakest. The story wasn't particularly good. There's a couple of okay jump scares in it, but I thought it was a little silly, if I'm honest. And like I said, the acting for this one was pretty bad. And then the final one I think is kind of like their showpiece one, is the Sam Hain slasher, where we have this kind of a slasher, obviously, going around killing people on Halloween, but there's also a kind of demonic possession element in it as well, which I don't know if it really needed. It seems that it has a little bit too many, trying to cram too many things into this movie, this sort of short film. It seems a little bit overstuffed with having both of these things in there. There are a couple of decent kills in this one, but there's some fairly poor CGI blood at the same time as well. The killer itself, I think it looks quite menacing, but again, it just feels a little bit underdeveloped because it is such a short running time, and really having these two sort of separate elements seems unnecessary. And then the movie is kind of like topped and tailed with an Elvira style kind of horror host, which I've actually seen in another film. Overall, it's okay. You know, the first two movies I think are quite fun, but the remaining three I felt were a little weaker, with the actual fourth movie being downright bad. So it's a little bit, probably, I feel like I'll give this one a 5 out of 10. A pretty average horror anthology. They have made a sequel to this. So obviously, if you're from the UK, I don't know how you. This is an American Blu-ray I've got. So bear in mind 1031, not the other way around. There's a second one out which I have yet to see. So we'll see about that, and you know, maybe it'll be a bit of an improvement. But it's not bad. It's just pretty much run-of-the-mill, low-budget anthology film. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing it next time. Bye for now.